Hello, I'm Derek Terry, host of I'm Not Complaining, I'm Just Saying. Here at one of my favorite spots, the barbershop, where we know if you're gonna complain here, then you better provide solutions.
Good.
It's good. I firmly believe when we make other people's problems part of our conversations without providing solutions or prayer, then we become part of the problem. I want to be able to provide people with a platform where they can freely express their views on such topics as education, social issues, health and fitness. Now that's good. Or sports. So please join me so we can complain and provide solutions together.
Hey, what's going on, people? This is your man, Derek Terry, host of I'm Not Complaining, I'm Just Saying, where you're going to complain, bring some solutions to the table. Hey, welcome to another episode, Season 7, Episode 8. And my special guest today is going to be Samichie Thomas, who's the Charles County Board of Education candidate for District 1. So before we bring her in, I always like to do my little housekeeping to let everyone know that I've sent out emails to every registered candidate for the Charles County Board of Education, as well as commissioners. And if they choose, they can be on the show. Doesn't cost them anything. I also promote businesses and nonprofits. I do all this for free, just my way of giving back. But this is really part of my voter education series because I want you, the voter, to educate yourself on the candidates. This is just my small part of doing it, but at the end of the day, you have to do your own research. So that's the whole purpose of doing this. For those candidates that, for whatever reason, can't make the show, don't want to do it, whatever, I'll have a special episode where I'll be pretty much dissecting your platform to the best of my ability because I won't be able to, Q&A. So with that, also have allergies. So if you see me drinking water or if I have to take a quick break, you'll understand. But outside of that, we're going to go ahead and bring in our special guest, Samichie Thomas. I almost messed up her name. Told me how to pronounce it. So Samichie Thomas, welcome.
Well, thank you, Derek.
So and just for those that are chiming in for the first time, it's Samichie rhymes with Keisha.
Yep, that's right.
If you bump into her along the campaign trail. So once again, welcome. It is nice to finally meet you, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of your campaign, tell us about Samichie, the person, not the candidate, but the person.
Well, let me say thanks so much for, allowing me to participate in this. I think it's really great for the candidates to have an option to be able to discuss things and also, in a form that people can replay, when they can. So I'm Samichie Thomas. I'm the mother of 4. And I've been, my oldest is 25 and my youngest is 16. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so he'll be 26 soon. So, and I have raised my children in Charles County public schools. They attended Charles County Public Schools. I've been a resident of the county since 2001, and I've lived in a couple of different areas in the county, which gives me a unique an interesting perspective. I also have been a former educator, so I used to be a teacher and significantly focused on social work, guidance, and children at risk when I was an educator, and then moved on to be a social worker, and then left working in that area. I didn't believe I needed to continue to do that as a paid option, so I decided to change my career and pivot to human resources. But I still continue to do that work as a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate for judges in the county, in Charles County, helping foster care children. I also volunteered with the county for IEP advocacy for several children. And then I now work in human resources and tech. So I have some unique experiences doing 20 plus years in HR. So I have a variety of very unique experiences that I think, will bring to the table. Plus, I am a former Division I athlete and have coached in the county. I've coached volleyball and basketball in the county. So I have experience and exposure with children across the county in a variety of ways. And as a mother of four, I've seen tons of kids running through my front door for a variety of reasons.
Okay, so I'll be honest with you, and I think I mentioned to you earlier, I'm intrigued by your background. Now, although you didn't mention on here, certain things that trigger me. I'm like, oh, athlete and coach, and myself, former Division I athlete. I ran track. I've coached junior college basketball. I coach rec and that nature. So you definitely get a feel for the different types of athletes, but also the wide range of ages as it relates to everyday life. So definitely appreciate that public service. So before we get into your platform, there's two things I want to touch on. You said you were an IEP advocate. Myself, for those that know me, I'm also a special education advocate, former educator, special education. Specifically, I did some years, or a year and a half, in Charles County. As an IEP advocate, what exactly is it? More or less the county brings you in, or you see that there's a need for the child? It's almost like legal representation to a degree.
Right.
So what has been your role as an IEP advocate?
So as an IEP advocate, mostly I've advocated for parents that have sought me out for a variety of reasons. So I've done it very informally, mostly in the county. And where I've done it is, I started out working, for my own son. I have a son who had a learning disability. Actually, two of my sons had a learning disability. And I also had several students or children that I worked for as a CASA who also had learning disabilities that needed to be addressed in the proper way. So walking their foster care parents through that IEP process. And then along the way, because I've worked, through PTA and through other things in the county, talking to parents, and they would say, oh, I don't understand that process, or, oh, I don't know how that works. Having a background in social work, because my bachelor's degree is in social work, and having worked with students myself, I understood, and I also understood, for my own son. And so I started working with parents who said, I don't even know what this process is about, or I didn't know that I could get certain things. And so that's where I really started to become an advocate. And then working through the IEP coordinators in the school, a couple of schools, they knew the work that I had done for other students, and they would say, hey, is there a parent? Here's a parent, they need a little help. Will you talk to them? And so that's really how I kind of organically grew.
Okay. Well, I wish they were that inviting for me. Well, I wouldn't say that. It's pretty much, if they hear my name, for the most part, they bring in people from central office to be there with me, because for the most part, there's things that should have been done either at the case management level or at the school level that just simply were not done. And I'm there to pretty much be that mediator. So thanks for the insight on that. So I want to bring up something real quick. I tell all my guests that, see, working with technology here. Let's move this out of the way, because what I found out is when we're on the screen, if I put it over your face, it actually, like as we're talking, it actually be there. So for those that don't know, this is Samichie Thomas, and thank you for everyone who's chiming in. She's running for Charles County Board of Education candidate District 1. So for those who don't know where District 1 is at, okay, technology. It's supposed to move. There we go. For those that don't know where District 1 is at, so what we're gonna do is, I'm just gonna put it over here in District 2, since we're only focused on District 1. So District 1 stretches as far, look like it's far, well, all the way to Welcome, Benedict, So question for District 1, what are some of the unique challenges specifically in education that you see in District 1?
So, I think that's a great question because, there's some districts in the county that, for the most part, they have a group of people that are kind of, are similarly situated, meaning, they may not have, far out rural areas. They may have access to Wi-Fi across their district pretty easily. And they also, may have, not the same, the district that I'm in has a lot, some agriculture. It has La Plata. It has people far out that may not have, all the same amenities. And when I say amenities, I mean like, having Wi-Fi and, being able to have some of those things. And so, or even just like, longer school bus rides, being picked up in rural areas. So let's say, for example, there's a snowstorm. Those rural roads that are back there, they may have more trouble, getting to school. And people think, oh, these roads in the middle of Waldorf are clear. Why are they closing schools? Well, you have to think about the very far out places that may be impacted. And we don't want any students to have challenges. And so when we're making decisions, it's not just for the clear roads in Waldorf, but it's also for those buses that go down small roads to pick up one or two children. And so I think understanding, those differences really matter across the county. And then also when you're dealing with, school districts that are more, some areas that are more rural, you may have other, challenges whether, is technology for in that area, perhaps what are the activities that they can participate in those areas because maybe they're too far out, so staying after school without after school transportation may be a little more difficult, getting back and forth. So I think some of those things are also important. And then if you move into more the La Plata area, perhaps there are some things in the La Plata area that people may be concerned about, maybe the new housing, more population, what does that do to the school and the seats, whether or not there's available seats and overcrowding. So I think there's a variety of things that very similar to the rest of Waldorf or Charles County, but there are some things that I think are heavier considerations that the La Plata or the District 1 parents may be concerned about, even those that on the border to Brandywine, right? Some of those areas may also distance from the school, longer bus rides, some of those types of things.
Okay, yeah, because District 1 is definitely more rural. I live in a district, I guess people call it a big city, but because there's really no rural, quote unquote, rural area. There's like a farm, which I think it's Billingsley Circle, that area. I think that's like the most rural, and if that goes out to District 3, but I can't really recall offhand. So as we
and
go
even in District 1, there's private schools that are in District 1. So you have St. Mary's in Bryantown, you have some of the other private schools, and so I think those are also considerations too. Well, how does that impact this area?
Okay, so as we look at your platform, and I just want to pop that up real quick. Sorry about that. There we go. So as we look at your platform, student-centric, and I'm just going to read through it. Education must evolve to prepare students for future success, committed to innovating Charles County Public School curriculum and instruction with parent involvement, planning today for tomorrow's future. Now, as a voter, I'm reading that, but what does this actually mean and how does it look?
Derek, thanks. That's a great question. So, like I said, I've worked in a variety of industries, tech and human resources. And I think one of the things is true for every industry and, probably every sector or part of our lives is that things are constantly changing. The one thing we can count on is things, change. Change is constant. And since change is constant, we have to also make sure that when we're creating systems, social systems, and education is a social system, right? Is we need to think about how we are preparing our children, not for today, with doing what we did yesterday, whether it be the way we design a curriculum, the resources we provide to the students that are in Charles County, but also how does that set them up for success in the future? And one of the elements that really needs to be there, and I say innovate in education, and innovative education means not just technology, not just, giving iPads or, Chromebooks or laptops, but also how we look at the curriculum, whether or not we can use resources to teach students things like, when the majority of these students get to college, they're going to be taking online classes. I mean, the AP exam is given online, the SAT is given online, using textbooks that allow them to be able to use those online. And COVID, thrust us into having to do these things, but how do we innovate what we're doing so that we can not only take the technology and use it with the students, but not just use it because it's there, but robustly enhance education in academics so that these students are prepared. I mean, you have a job, I have one, and when we go to work, we're doing Zoom, we're having to use all kinds of technology, even training. Most organizations have training online. So making sure that the students are prepared to understand how to leverage technology, think critically differently using resources available, and then moving that forward with how they'll be prepared for the workforce in the future.
Well, and as I listen to you and we talk about this, I guess because of my education background and dealing with students, and I always look at everyone's talking points or their platform, and although it's something that I totally agree with, when I look at some of the students and the system, some of the stuff is lacking. I honestly just don't feel that a lot of the students have those analytical skills to apply what they've learned in school. Sometimes we're teaching to the test, not necessarily the curriculum. And just like you said, with COVID, there's a learning gap across the board. You may have some, like, I'll give you an example. There was someone, they got a 4 point, I don't know what it was, GPA. But when you looked at their essay for scholarship, I don't understand how they got the 4.5 GPA.
Yeah, Derek, I think you raise a good point, right? So three things I think, led me to come up this platform, right? The first thing that led me to coming up with the platform and really deciding how and why I wanted to run is because I said I work in HR, right? I have run student internship programs for a variety of federal agencies. In those student internship programs, one of the things that I have found to be true is while they always seek the highest GPA students, those students come in and sometimes what they have done to get a high GPA is learn to regurgitate material. They haven't always learned to be critical thinkers because that really wasn't the forefront. If they were rewarded for taking information, being able to ingest it, and then be able to, to bring it back out in a test or some sort of assessment, then they were getting great grades, right? Even if they were, solid writers. But when you bring them into a work environment and you give them a project and say, I need you to review some information, I need you to give me a summation, and then I need you to tell me what direction we can go in. Many of those students have challenges with that. And some of these agencies, I managed this student internship program, one at NASA, working with at NASA, at the Department of State, at NCIS. So I've done it in lots of areas, okay, lots of agencies. And that was a challenge. Even when you're interviewing some of these students, great kids, solid GPAs, have done all the things to build a resume. But when you put them in the test, right? When you pressure test them and say, now I need you to practically apply what you have learned, it kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
And it's not the student's fault always, right? Sometimes it's because they haven't had enough opportunities in the classroom to have practical application.
Well, I think, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I think that's part of the problem with the school system. because I do want to make sure that I move on, is that certain schools have certain programs that prepare students for either a trade or an academic major, whether it's biology, whatever it may be, and you have some students that simply are not prepared for it. So what I would like to see out of all the candidates, and regardless if they win or lose, is there's more focus on preparing the student for college and for work. Because, and I'm blessed and fortunate that my daughter graduated in construction management, went to Westlake, was in their engineering program, but some people would not deem it as the elite program. They would deem North Point. All I know is she's working in her field, making a whole lot more money than I made when I graduated from college. But that is because we knew that there were some things that were lacking, and we kind of prepared her for it once she got to college. So that is something that I definitely would like to see. So now I want to go to
and I think I'm sorry, but I also think it's important for parents, you know, to fill in the blanks. But I'll be honest, sometimes it's hard for parents to fill in the blanks, because if you think about it, who's the first person you ever trusted besides your parents? It was a teacher. You went to kindergarten, your parents sent you off, and it was a teacher. So you get to school and you say, okay, well, I'm in school, and you trust that the education system is working. And I think parents trust that the education system is working, and they rightfully should, right? They should trust that it's working. And it doesn't mean that it's not working. It means that there are areas that we can always improve upon. And I think some of those areas are student-centric. Let's look at what the students need, and let's make sure that the teachers are prepared to support that. And then make sure that we can implement that in a way that we have measures of success, right? I mean, we can look across the county at, you know, what's the measure of success? And there are measures that across the United States are widely used. Like if you look at Montgomery County or in Virginia, sometimes they will say, well, how many of these children in this school district go to Ivy League schools, are valedictorians, are getting scholarships? What are the average SATs? So while we look at the tests that we have to do for the state of Maryland, which we need to do, those assessments are important. There's other metrics as parents that we can look towards that will tell us a good measurement of whether or not we are preparing our students, and if they're able to, you know, robustly be able to even take the resources that are around them.
Well, the other thing to look at as we go into your second point, you talk about making sure that our educators have the right tools, the right resources. I know as a former educator, every politician talks about we need to do more for the teachers, but very few of them know exactly what the job entails. I'm just going to put it out there. They don't know what it entails, especially as a special educator. I've said this and I'll say it again. Whether it's staff, you know, teachers, counselors, whatever, they're putting in extra hours for free. They've been doing this for decades. You know, I actually did a cost analysis, whatever you want to call it, where literally one school system, and I call it pimping the teachers, $14 million a year they're getting free labor when you counted the average salary and the 10 hours and all that. So when you look at support for educators, what do you feel right now in Charles County is lacking that you would want to improve on?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. And my HR, my human resources background is really something that I want to leverage as being part of the school board. You know, I've hired everything from, you know, engineers to scientists that helped hire astronauts at NASA, and have my master's degree is in human resources management development. So I've spent a lot of time looking at organizational behavior and organizational development. And I think that's the critical piece, right? I've been a teacher, so I know what it takes to be a teacher. You're a little bit of a mom, you're a parent, you're a guidance counselor. I mean, as a teacher, I was, you know, I had some kids that I had to make sure that they understood what hygiene was and, you know, take them to the bathroom. And, you know, you do those kind of things. And if we want teachers to be passionate, we have to do a couple of things. One, we have to create some parity in their pay, right? The pay that they have in comparison to others in the county, it needs to be, you know, at the forefront. Because while studies show in human resources that while people do want to be appreciated for their work and they want to be passionate about their work, they also want to be paid well, right?
Well,
And they don't want to be.
question, do you think that pay is the main thing, or it's just, and the reason I
I
say that
think it's a component.
yeah, because the reason I say that, because there's a difference maybe of $2,000 or whatever it may be between PG, St. Mary's, or whatever, and myself. They could pay me, and I told another candidate, they could pay me $120,000, $130,000 a year. I'm not going back, because there's other areas that simply have not been addressed, and all the money in the world is not going to solve it.
Well, from a human resource perspective, it's not always just the salary. It's a total composite of all the benefits available for teachers, right? So it's whether or not they have a budget to give them professional development, right? If you're a new teacher coming in and you perhaps want to get your master's degree, is there a professional development budget? Those things are available, but there's also other incentives, like, you know, whether or not you're going to get some money in order to not have to use your own out of the pocket money to, you know, have supplies in your classroom. You know, if you need things in to support you as a teacher, for example, mental health services. Do you have time to do that? If you know, want to have support in having some autonomy in your classroom when it comes to curriculum, will you be supported? If you have some challenging students in your classrooms, will the administration support you? So there's a variety of things that we need to do to help educators feel supported, make sure that they have the right resources available from the curriculum. If they, you know, collectively, if teachers see that something in curriculum may not be working, do they have a voice to make some changes in areas that they feel like they need? I have an example of, I had two children who attended the STI programs at North Point, and one time there was one instance where they introduced an online textbook. The teacher very quickly, at the beginning of the school year, was, you know, doing this online textbook, but it was a ramp up, right? Definitely a ramp up for the students and for her. Did she feel supported in that way, where she was just given an online textbook, had to quickly get the students up to speed, use that they have the right laptops, computers, and all of these things to make sure that the students knew what they were doing? And was the technology the right technology to be implementing? So you have to think about all of those components when you talk about how to support teachers. So it's pay, it's administrative support, and it's also parental support. You know, parents should expect that teachers are doing a job, but teachers should be able to expect that parents are doing some things too, right? We can't, you know, school is not babysitting. You don't just drop your kids off and expect a miracle, right? There's a component. There's the students who need to be responsible for some things that they have to do. You have parents that need to be responsible for things that they need to do. Teachers, administration, and even the community has a role in being able to support the academics and education in Charles County.
Well, you say, and respectfully, so you say these are things that should be going on, but I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Sure.
You say should, but it's not happening. It's like you should behave in class. Doesn't happen. You should provide professional development that I need. It's not happening. I should be able to leave when my contract hours specify that I leave, and I go home and I do no other work. I should be able to advocate for the student that I'm the case manager, and there's a lot of shoulds, but when these shoulds become, for the most part, they don't happen.
They become rhetoric, right?
As a school board member, because this is where I have that disconnect sometimes with school boards, and it's not pointing at you. But I hear a lot of shoulds, a lot of good talking points. But when I'm a parent and I'm coming in and saying, look, you said X, Y, and Z, why is this happening? And sometimes they just don't have the answer. I'd rather them just say that than to give me a Band-Aid. So you talked about the community, and leads me into your third main point. We do have a well-educated community, meaning that when we look at it from a holistic point of view, we have a high percentage of family members who have college degrees, but that doesn't necessarily make them educated per se. Educated in the sense that they're taking the time to find out how their school system works and what their school board does. So what do you see as one of the major, I guess the major things that you would like to see, or I wouldn't necessarily say like to see, that you would like to work with your other colleagues, if so elected, when you talk about community collaboration?
Yeah, you know what, that's probably one of the things that I think it has the most promise with the school board is community involvement. And also finding ways that we can I mean, we live in an age of social media. You know, we got Facebook and TikTok and, you know, all these things. COVID kind of forced people to learn how to live in a virtual world. I think leveraging those virtual world, you know, that virtual world is important. I mean, there's some places that people are stuck in their old ways, right? We still get a calendar, right? The student handbook and the calendar is all in one, you know, those kind of things that the county used to do. I think it's important to really, you know, use and create public forums that are virtual and also in person if parents want to attend. I'll give you an example. I spent a number of years traveling as a parent, and where, you know, the school might, you know, host something or the county might host something. It looks like I'm just not a present parent. I'm not there, but I'm traveling for work. I would leave on a Monday and come back on a Friday, and I did that for a number of years. So it wasn't that I wasn't prepared or didn't want to be involved. It was that I had to work, and that work took me somewhere else. I would have loved to participate virtually, but that wasn't an option. Now we have the virtual options. We have to recognize that our community has a number of commuting parents, or even parents that have different types of work hours, nurses, or, you know, military professionals, those that during their work hours, you know, when things might be hosted, they're unavailable, or commuting back from, you know, DC, Annapolis, or wherever people may work. If it takes you an hour commuting, you get off at 5, you definitely won't be down here for something at 6, right? Or even just parents with multiple children. I mean, I had 4 children, so I had, you know, 2 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school. Somebody's back to school night may have not been able to, we couldn't get to it, and it looked like we weren't involved parents, but that wasn't the case. It was just, you know, we are living our lives, and we have to not assume, we have to assume good intentions, right? Assume that parents want to know, assume that the community wants to participate, and then find opportunities to cultivate that, right? Example, we have a number of businesses down here in the county. It's why are we not looking at innovative ways to draw in businesses, right? There's a Navy base in the county. I'm certain there's other things in the county. I work for a corporation that does matching for employees. If you donate to something, they will match dollar for dollar. I'm certain there are lots of people who work at organizations that would donate things into our community. Do we have, you know, something like we could have a giving event? You know, something, if we do a giving event and we ask, you know, parents in the community, seek out from the companies that you work for, whether there's things that they can donate. There's innovative ways to find funding for the county, grants. There's grants that we can get for technology, grants that we can get to support teachers. You know, having an opportunity as a member of the school board, my first thought would be to innovate. I talked about innovation with students and curriculum, innovative ideas and how we can find funding for the school from the community and from corporate America is also things that we are not, it's on the table. They're things that we can discuss. I mean, there's tons of companies, Microsoft, Apple, and others that will donate into communities, but you won't get the grant money if you don't try to seek it.
Yeah, and I think that's been Charles County's Achilles heel, is we're trying to catch up to where some of the other school systems are already there.
Right.
And that comes with fresh ideas, innovative ideas. You know, not to knock any of the previous board members as far as their tenure, but if you're stuck in a bubble, you're gonna stay in that bubble.
Right.
And that's what I've seen over the years. So regardless of how the election turns out, there's going to be new faces. There's only the possibility of two incumbents, but everybody else is going to be fresh and new. So that is something that we all as taxpayers and parents and stakeholders look forward to. So the last point I want to talk about was it's your resource optimization. And we're talking about the Maryland Blueprint, which and keep in mind, for those who don't know the Maryland Blueprint, I'm just gonna summarize it. It's money with checkpoints, but that money doesn't last forever. Meaning that somewhere down the road, the county's gonna have to absorb the cost.
Correct.
And you mentioned the economic development. Right now, there are people that are saying, we need to stop building, we need to stop building, stop building. I agree, smartly. But at the same time, if you stop building, where are you going to get this money from in order to support the Maryland Blueprint once it runs out? So what is your take on the Maryland Blueprint, and how can you see that it can instantly impact Charles County? And then what are some things that we're going to need to do to ensure that we're able to fund our school system?
Yeah. So the Maryland Blueprint, I think, is a great idea. I mean, this is not the first time this has been done. There have been other commissions that have been held in the state of Maryland in order to try to prove, the schools in academics. I think it is important to note that while this comes with money, it's not an endless supply. That money over the out years, if you think of a curve, what the state will give us will go down, and what we are required as a county to provide to supplement our own academic educational system will have to come up. It is significantly important for our county because we do have, a high income, right? The demographics in our county, highly educated, and also, when we look at the tax brackets that are in our county, it's high. So that means there's some counties that will continuously, run flat for how much money they get, like a Baltimore County. They're going to run flat for how much money they receive from the state of Maryland, and we will not. And so in order for us to be prepared, that's why I said resource optimization. In the beginning, as the county gets money from the blueprint, that will be the time that's most critical for our county, because when where we're in the curve, where we're on the upswing of getting that funding, we need to use it in a way that gives us the biggest bang for the buck. If they're giving us money to support teachers, giving us money to support recruiting and hiring, we need to really take advantage of that before that money, goes on the down slope and we have to start continuing to pay more. So that's the first part. Resource optimization means take the resources that we're giving and really look at not only using them currently, but how will that impact the long run, and we need to do a strategy. It needs to be, 2 years, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and then what do we expect to look like in 10 years, right? So that is really where we need to look at the resources. And we also need to look at what that means for training, for the innovation and technology that comes with it. And then, we need to talk to the commissioners, right, about, what will the infrastructure of the county, how will the infrastructure of the county grow so that we can continue to support the academics and the education that are needed in the county. If the commissioners have a decision to continue to grow the county, with that growth will come, a higher economic bracket, more funds that are coming into the county, more seats are needed, more schools, more changes. That means we're going to have even more funds that are required. And so we need to have a holistic or, a macro level view of what's necessary. And so that we can plan together with the commissioners to make sure that this sorely needed infrastructure of education in Charles County Public Schools is not outrun by growth and not underfunded, because the state is no longer giving the money that they intend to give at the beginning of the blueprint.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I will say that, the new group of Board of Education members are going to have a monumental task when it comes to, how this money is to be spent, along with the superintendent's plan. But also you talk about the relationship, not only with the commissioners, but with the delegation, which in my opinion has been rocky. There was a lack of transparency in my opinion. And those relationships need to be strengthened, because at the end of the day, it's about the kids. It's not about your political agenda. It's not about you trying to hold on to a job so you don't have to look for another job if you don't get elected. It's about the kids. And the county's only but so big. So things get out. And I was told a long time ago, education is $1 billion industry. Follow the money. My hope and my wish is that rather than follow the money, you follow the potential and the future of our kids. Would invest in the money in the right places. So we're done with the questions, but what I do before I end, I always do this word association. So I don't know if you've seen the show or anything like that.
Sure.
But I do this word association. So in about 10 seconds, it can be one word, it can be, a sentence. You just say what comes to your mind.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
This is gonna be fun. I do this with my kids all the time.
Okay, so we're gonna start with the first one, teacher fair.
You said teacher fair?
Yeah, job fair, teacher fair, I'm sorry.
Oh, job fair. Virtual.
Okay. High school versus middle school students.
Puberty.
Student athlete.
Perseverance.
Now you can say it more in one word. Though.
Okay, yeah, perseverance.
Yeah, you can say sentence like, homeless.
Homeless. Hidden population.
Okay. Nutrition.
U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Okay. International Baccalaureate Program.
Old school versus new school.
Yes, and we don't have one in Charles County, before I get to the last one, the reason I say that is because year after year after year, they say the greatest school system in the county. To some degree, I agree, but when you don't have an IB program, I'm not talking about an AP program, I'm talking about an IB program. To me, that's problematic because Anne Arundel County has it, Hartford County has one, I believe Baltimore City has one. There's a lot of other counties that have it. My school in particular, I went to Edgewood High School. So, and then the last one, hold on a second.
So Derek, I want to just touch on that a little bit. This is what I mean about innovation in education. Every one of the adults that are going to be voting, every one of the people that are over, I'm going to say over 35, what we know about education is largely shaped by how we were educated. Things have changed so much today, right? I have a daughter who's a senior. She's graduating this year. And she went to fill out her Common App for college. She filled out 2 Common Apps. She filled them out and she says, I'm done, Mom. I filled out the 1 Common App. And then she comes back and says, I have 25 emails from all of these schools. I thought I filled out the app and that was it. I said, no, ma'am, you have to go back and follow up. And when we were kids, we were filling out everything by paper and mailing it in. And, the fact that there are states that have said SATs are no longer needed. There are places that are saying AP, what's it for anymore? There are places that are not even measuring kids by the standards that we're all accustomed to. That means that each one of us, parents, the administration, even the students, we have to guide our young people through what does it mean to be educated and prepared for tomorrow today. I mean, you don't have to take the SAT to get into even an Ivy League school now. You don't have to, do some of the things that we once thought you had to do. But there are some things now that you should do. You should be taking some international studies classes, right? You should know how to take notes. You ought to understand even though you don't have to take the SAT, you should understand those SAT words. And so that's what I mean about innovation.
And what I will say is the SAT may not be mandatory or required for colleges, but for certain scholarships, they will look for the SAT. Or
even this year, they're changing that. My daughter got a full ride to a school with no SAT.
But it depends on some scholarships. Some scholarships that we're going to stick with it, and some say not. But yeah, it's a good point. So the last word. Hold on for 1 second. I gotta fix my cup real quick. Dallas. I
can't believe it says Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys. Guess you got no words. All right, so thanks for that word association. So okay, so before we go, I want to give you a minute, sort of like your elevator spill on why District 1 should vote for Samichie Thomas.
Thanks so much, Derek. And I really want to appreciate the viewers for watching. This has been fun. So I'm a mother, an educator. I'm passionate about education. People who really know me have sat and listened to me stand on the soapbox and talk about the reason why education is important. And it's the reason why I decided to run for school board. I really, truly believe that every student should have the opportunity to be successful and also have someone to hold their hand through success. In order to be successful, we cannot assume that people know. We have to show. We have to show them the path and help them get there, whether that is a parent who just needs more information, the administration that needs to hear more information from parents about how they feel, or whether it is, the teachers who need to be heard. I represent District 1 because it's where I live, but if I'm voted to the school board, I'm going to be representing things that are for every student. And I really want to see our students be successful. The single most important thing, I think, when you talk about why education is important in a community is because the students that we're educating today become the taxpayers of tomorrow. They can either help build a community, or without good education, they can cause negative impacts in a community. And so it's really important for us to take education of our students seriously. It's important for us to do that in a way that is transparent and collaborative, working with the commissioners, working with the superintendent, and inviting everybody to have a seat at the table in order to figure out the best way, the most optimal way in order for leveraging resources, supporting students, and getting the community involved. And the last thing I'll say is it doesn't always have to be our money, right? There are definitely ways for us to partner with corporate America, with federal agencies, and leverage grants in the community for us to be able to be successful. So looking for, the best way to do that is, really why I'm running. I don't want us to always continue to do the same thing that we've been doing, because not that it hasn't been good, but we always have room for improvement. And that improvement is thinking about what we need to do and how we need to do it in a different way so that we can get more robust results for the students. I think you're on mute, Derek. Derek, are you on mute?
Yeah,
you
I'm
on mute. Okay.
Yeah, I said I definitely want to thank you for the elevator speech. We're gonna work on that. So I only want to go to the 6th floor. We took it all the way to the 20th, but it was very important information. And just for those who need to get in contact or want to support your campaign, find out more information, her email is vote, and it's not like you say it, but it's Samichie. And we have SAMICHIE CCBOE .delta1@gmail.com. That's how you get in contact with Samichie. And I definitely want to thank you again for being on the show. We wish you the best of luck. Is there anything I can do to And like I tell candidates, anything I can do to help promote, let me know. I'm no way endorsing anybody, but there's an opportunity. You want to be back on the show and I have time, just please reach out to me. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. We're going to get you a Commander's Cup. Thanks, Derek.
Whatever. All right.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And thanks to viewers for watching.
All right. All right, y'all. Once again, I'd like to thank Samichie Thomas for who's running for Charles County Board of Education candidate, District 1. I'd like to definitely thank her again for being on the show. And before I close, like I do everything, I want to highlight, dealing with technology. And just in case we missed it, that's Samichie Thomas, Charles County Board of Education candidate, District 1. Of course, that's the map of the District 1, which is this area right here. And that's her platform. And I wanted to highlight Light the Way Foundation. I'm actually the treasurer, but we have our summer film camp, and which is held, it's going to be held this year from June 27th to July 1st. And the camp is going to be held at Howard University. The deadline for the application is April 30th. So hopefully this broadcast will be aired before then. And you can go to www.lightthewayfoundation.org to get the application, to fill out the application. So this is open to kids 9 through 12 years of age in the Prince George's County, DC, and Charles County area. So hopefully some of the parents will take advantage of this. And until then, we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace and blessings.